Okay, so good afternoon, class. We are now with your portion 3 referred to discussion. So let me first uh, say about the background of what is a cell. So in your organization of life, your cell is the smallest unit of life. Okay, so there are uh, there are two types of cell. So these are the prokaryotes and then the other one, which is what we call the eukaryotes. So when you say prokaryotes, these are cells without the presence of nucleus. Well, when you say eukaryotes, these are types of cells with the presence of nucleus. Okay, so we have already talked about the zoology and now about humans. Okay, so humans and animals, also with the plants and then I think the protists, they are under the eukaryotes. So our discussion is about focuses on humans or under the eukaryotic cell. So as I have said, when you say eukaryotic cell, with the presence of nucleus. So before that, let us first talk about what are the objectives of this module. So by the end of this module, the learner should be able to do the following. So the first one here is to recognize the relationship between structure and function in the cell. Second is to explore the role of the cell membrane, identify the significant events to occur during each stage of mitosis and meiosis. Fourth, to develop an understanding on how ATP as an important element for cell function is produced during cellular metabolism. And then the fifth one is to appraise respiration through the use of yeast. So here is the cell. So this is a eukaryotic cell with the presence of nucleus. So there are three major parts. I have mentioned this already in your biochemistry. So the three major parts of cell are the following. So this is your nucleus. Your nucleus are covered with your nucleic membrane or the envelope with the nuclear membrane. So these are the organelles found. So this place known as your cytoplasm. So in your cytoplasm, there is a presence of fluids and that is what we call the cytosol. So lahat ng organelles ay lumulutang-lutang with the presence of your cortisol. Okay? With your cytosol rather. So this one is the cell membrane. So we already know that the cell membrane represents as the gate of the cell. Okay, so pag sinabi siya, gate inside our house, when you say gate plus, this is the one that controls the in and out of the cell. So this is the gatekeeper. Okay, so there are trillions of cells inside the body. So there are 30 trillions of cells in the human body. So here are the cells of our body. So napakarami pala niya talaga, class. Okay. So here are the body fluids and fluid compartments. So your cell are made up of intracellular fluid, which is the inside of the cell because intra means inside. And then this one is the plasma, which is found outside of the cell. So this is one of the fluids in your cell. And then the other one is what we call the interstitial fluid. Your interstitial fluid is a fluid which is found out of the cell, but also known as your extracellular fluids. So ganun yun na pag pinandaan mo sa extracellular means outside of the cell. When you say intracellular fluids, inside of the cell, intra. Okay? So here is the anatomy of your plasma, cytoplasm, and then the nucleus. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung ating focus. We're not focusing about the organelles which are found inside your cytoplasm. Itaas natin yung level ng inyong cell. Okay? So, what is plasma membrane? So, this is your plasma membrane or the another term for your plasma membrane is your cell membrane or the cytoplasmic membrane. Okay. So this one is a protoprotein, a glycolipid. I know that I have mentioned this already in your biochemistry. So this is your cell membrane, this part. So your cell membrane are made up of phospholipid bilayer, so which means it is made up of two layers. Okay, so this is the transport which are being used during the active and passive transport. Okay, especially for the active transport, kasi when you say passive, it diffuses or it goes directly without an energy going inside of the cell. So pag active transport kasi it needs an ATP or it needs an energy to go with it. So you need a transporter. Okay, this one is the cholesterol, which is found also in your cell membrane, which is the one that, so the function of your lipids, so it prevents friction. So it gives oil. Okay, your cell membrane are made up of the tails. So if you notice, there are tails here, and then there are heads, so balloons. So the heads are called as the hydrophilic heads, and then the tails, they're called as hydrophobic tails. When you say hydro means water, phobic means takot or afraid. So which means that this portion is uh, afraid of water. Okay, this portion I, the one that attached to the water. So if you notice with your previous lesson in your chemical basis of light, meron siyang presence of water inside and outside of the cell. Okay? So the one that attaches to your water in your cell ay yung inyong may balloons. So they're called as hydrophilic heads. So ito yung naka-attach lang sa water kasi they are water friendly. Okay? So it says here that the movements of the cell, which is either active or passive transport. So based on your previous lesson, when you say active transport or passive transport, when you are active is when you are going down the mountain. Uh, when you are climbing out of the mountain. So that's what you call the active. Okay, sorry ha. When you say active class, umakit ka sa bundok. What happened when you are going upward to the mountain? So napakahirap niya. So you need an active. That is what you call the active transport. You need an energy. Okay, you need an energy, effort para gawin. But when you say passive, ano pa ang babae pag passive, siya sunod-sunod. And that is what we call the passive transport, is that kaya niya mag-diffuse, okay, through the process of diffusion, osmosis. Walang kahirap-hirap pumasok sa inyong cell membrane. The cell membrane is made up of phospholipid, as I have mentioned. It is a selectively permeable membrane, which means selectively came from selectively, selected, which means na hindi pwedeng pumasok dyan ng basta-basta. Diba? The house without a door and a wall, ano kaya mangyayari? Okay, pwede ka pasukin na magnanakaw. That's the important is the cell membrane in your cell. Okay, this is the one that maintains the movements of substances in and out of the cell. Yung labas at saka pasok sa cell. Siya ang nagpo-control. The ions, the substances, the glucose. Diba, I have mentioned that your glucose cannot enter into the cell. Okay, pag ito ay hindi pa naging monomer. So, kailangan muna smallest particle siya bago siya tatanggapin ng ating cell. There are trillions of cells kung titingnan nyo. So, yun ang glucose na yun is going inside of the different cells of our body. Pero kung titingnan mo class, meron pa rin siyang limits. Why? Kasi sometimes, ang ating hormones ay hindi na-work. Okay, so I don't have mentioned anything but focuses on the cellular, on the cell membrane. The phospholipid, as I have said, meron siyang balloons, with balloons with the tails. So the round which can be above are called the hydrophilic heads, so they attract water. Hydrophilic means they love water. Okay, hydrophobic means takot, repels water. So they are afraid of water. So this is the cytoplasm, which means that this portion is the inside of the cell, and this one is the outside of the cell. So here is the extracellular fluid. So another term for this is interstitial fluids. So these are the fluids or water which is found outside of the cell. And this one is your cytoplasm, which is found inside of the cell. So the inside of the cell ay kailangan negatively charged siya. While the outside of the cell, meron siyang positively charged. And take note class, dapat sa sodium-potassium pump, the sodium should be out of the cell, and then the potassium is inside of the cell. So during the transportation, dapat ganun ang kanilang transport. The potassium ay nasa outside, it goes inside of the cell. Why? Because your potassium, in the essential elements in our body, the potassium is used for contraction. So nagko-contract yun. While your sodium, it attracts water. Pag maraming sodium sa katawan natin, class, okay, what happened for this? Okay, it gains water. So, it gains water. So, kung napapansin nyo, nagkakaroon ng pamamaga. Okay, nagkakaroon ng problema ang ating puso or nagkakaroon ng parang dumulobo-lobo yung ating mga paa. Okay, because there is something wrong inside our body. There is a disequilibrium. So, dapat na maintain that the sodium is out of the cell and then the potassium is inside of the cell. Okay, so dapat naka-maintain yung negative and then the positively charged. At meron siya range. Dapat ang negatively charged is between negative 60 to negative 90. Once na tumaas ang level ng negative or more than, ito naman ay napapansin ng positively charged which is found outside of the cell. Why? To compensate the body. Dapat kung anong pinoproduce natin, yan din ang gagawin ng ating outside of the cell. This is how important is the equilibrium inside our body. Okay? The membrane potential has a slightly greater amount of negatively charged than positively charged. Inside the cell, slightly greater positively charged than negatively charged outside of the cell. So kung papansinin nyo rito, meron na rin nakakalabas here. There is a positively charged and there is a negative charge. So kung titingnan mo, I think the connection for this is the ionic bonds. The sodium chlorine here is, there is a positive and negative one. So this is a salt, which is found outside of the cell. Okay, the sodium cannot attracts with the negative sign of your chlorine if the sodium is found inside of the cytoplasm. So if you notice, ang lahat ng potassium ay nasa loob ng ating cytoplasm. So if you know, but also your potassium, okay, it has a positively charged, which means that it is came from here. So pinasok lang siya inside of the cell. Or your chlorine, okay, I think the sodium kasi this is a positive ion, since during the ionic one. So this one, this negative, and then the positive, here, this is salt. Okay, dapat yan ay constructive or dapat yun ay neutral. Okay, because if there is too much sodium chloride, okay, which is found inside of the cell, it attracts water, and what happened? Okay, kaya nga kailangan na sodium lumabas. Okay, what happened? Okay, what happened? Ang ating cell ay magsuswell. Okay, it attracts water. The membrane potential has slightly greater amount of negative charge. Okay? The excess negatively charged which are found inside of the cell are electrically attracted with the excess positive charges found outside of the cell. Excess, pag sobra ang negatively charged na nakita sa ating loob ng cell, ito ay attractive sa excess. Pag excess yung positive, so they are attractive for each other. And even, so vice versa. Ibig sabihin, pag sobra ang negatively charged sa loob, attracted ito sa positively charged dun sa labas. So dapat ma-neutralize yun para they are meant for each other. Okay, so gagawa sila. Okay? So this is the structure of your nerve cells or the neurons. So another term for your neurons is a nerve cell. So this is your nucleus, which is found inside the nucleus. About there are presence of your nucleic acids. So here in your nerve cells, so these are the organelles. So kung napapansin mo, meron silang centrioles, the endoplasmic reticulum, the ribosomes, the cell membrane. So this part. So this is where your cytoplasm. So cytoplasm is a place where the organelles found. Isa itong parte ng ating cell kung saan napupunta ang ating mga organelles sa katawan. Okay, your nucleus here, and then the other one, which is what we call the cell membrane, which is the gatekeeper. So here, gatekeeper. Okay, this one is the axon, and then yung mga branches, that is what we call the dendrites. Okay, this portion is the cell body. So, ang katawan ng ating cell. In cell communication, so yung cell-to-cell communication, so came from the word communication, merong nagsisend at merong nagre-receive. Okay, may mga ways of signaling. So dapat, pag nagsisend ng impulses para i-interpret at merong nagre-receive at i-interpret para ibalik. So for example, pag kinulot kita, okay, it send impulses to the brain, okay, to your brain, and then i-ano ng ating brain cells, i-interpret, tapos i-receive ng ating brain cells, tapos i-interpret, then babalikan niya, send niya naman ulit, balik doon as a manifestation at para magkaroon ng reaction. So sabihin, ay sakit. Diba? The environment gives the signal to the cell reaction or may come from the other cells. So in order to control the response of the signals must be passed through the cell membrane and occasionally even the signals able to cross the cell membrane. Kasi dahil selected yung tinatanggap ng ating cell membrane, hinahayaan ng cell membrane na magpa-pass through. So through the passive transport. But occasionally, okay, hindi lahat ng bagay ay able to class or able to cross the cell membrane. Siya pa rin ang masusunod na cell membrane. There are 3 times they work through communicating with the receptor proteins. So what's the function of your proteins? Okay, it makes hormones, enzymes, so yan ang function ng ating proteins, which are also found inside our cell. Connects the inside and the outside of the cell. So that is what you call the cell-to-cell communication. Okay, this one. So your pituitary gland is the master gland in your brain, which is found in your brain. Okay, this is what we call the hypothalamus. Kaya nga tinawag ang pituitary gland because it signalizes to the other parts, not only about the nervous system, but also the other systems. Kaya nga tinawag siya. Okay, so there is a presence of your cells also here in this part. So yun yung nakikipag-communicate during the cell-to-cell communication. So they go hand in hand. Okay, they communicate for each other para maintain ang ating homeostasis. In the cell signaling, epinephrine is important during fight or flight. So ano yung fight or flight? During the release of your epinephrine or your noradrenaline or your adrenaline. But this is the immediate response of our body. But take note, class, this is an immediate response of your body, which is during fight or flight or during emergency cases. So take note, class, pansamantala lang yan. That is the immediate response. So like for example, pagalit ka, pag pinagalit, pagalit na galit ka, anong normal reaction mo, susumpitin mo siya. That is the release of your epinephrine. So you have to be careful for that. Okay? Epinephrine is an organized messenger that signals many cell types with large effects throughout the body. So ang dami niyang effect sa katawan natin. Kasi the release of your epinephrine, it goes into the bloodstream. So pag bloodstream na yan, pupunta na yan sa iba't ibang parte ng ating katawan. Kaya nga, it is throughout the body. Your epinephrine, cell-to-cell communication. This affects the smooth muscles, which has covers the entire bronchioles. So yung your respiratory system, so the bronchioles or the branches, ito yung tris, para sa mga sanga dun sa inyong bronchioles. Anong gagawin niya? It covers the bronchioles. Daanan ng hangin. So anong mangyayari? Mahihirapan ka huminga. Okay, and then the pacemaker of the heart. Kasi magkasama yung respiratory system at saka yung cardiovascular sa pagtatrabaho. So dahil hinarangan ng inyong epinephrine, ang inyong smooth muscles, and entire the bronchioles, mahirapan kang huminga ngayon. Okay, so yung heart rate mo, it goes fast. Ganun katindi ang epinephrine effect sa atin. Okay, the brain also receives an initial perceptions in times of threat or in danger. Okay, it also initiates the release of your norepinephrine. So that is the during fight or flight, the epinephrine and norepinephrine messenger. So they're called as messenger. Like the cortisol, when you say cortisol, isa rin siyang hormone, like your epinephrine, na during fight or flight. That is the reason why during fight or flight, yung mga stress eating, di ba one of the effects of stress ay nagpapataba. Why? Kasi because of this presence of cortisol, which is a hormone, hinihina niya yung ating digestive process. So during attacks of stress, wag mong hayaan mo siya. Gumawa ka ng paraan na matanggal yung release ng epinephrine. So you have to neutralize that. Why? Kasi your cortisol is there. Ang hangry, nagugutom ka. That is the release due to epinephrine. But when you say cortisol class, because of that hangry, kakainan mo, kay class your cortisol, ililesa naman yung metabolism. So, pag during the attacks of stress, hayaan mo muna. Pag inuupong ka, huwag mo siyang pansinin. Huwag mo siyang pansinin. You drink a lot of water. But take note, kasi if you are taking exam, ang mahirap lang dun, if you are taking exam, at tapos, if you are stressed with nakita mo yung exam, napakahirap, then you have to relax. Kasi pag uminom ka ng tubig yan, class, okay? Pag uminom ka ng tubig, class, panay ang labas mo. Kasi that is the immediate that is the response of your body. What happened? Okay? Ilalabas niya kasi ino-normalize na yung blood pressure. Okay? So, hinga malalim that you have to control that. Okay? Exam lang to. Mas lalo ako matatakot, lalo ako mabablack out. Okay? That is the reason why that you have to understand everything. in sciences naman, you have to memorize. But take note, naintindihan nyo pa anong nangyayari. Why? Because that is the situation. Okay? This one, what's the difference between your meiosis and your mitosis? When you say meiosis class, it involves about your gametes formation. So it's about that egg cell and then the sperm cell. Okay, so kung papansinin mo, meron kayong 46 chromosomes during sexual intercourse or yung pag-met ng tatay at nanay natin. Okay, 46 chromosomes. And each gamete or each cell ay magduduplicate sila ng another daughter cell. So dahil dalawa yan, magpuproduce sila ng dalawang mag-iisang daughter cells. Okay? Okay, so this is duplication. And then after that, this duplication produces two daughter cells. So that is the reason why in your mitosis, dahil dalawa parents, ay nag-produce siya ng haploid or dito sa may dulo, which is 4. How about when you say mitosis? Your mitosis ay came from one parent. Okay, so like for example, pagdating sa human, like for example, na-scratch kayo, or even yung nails nyo, napansin nyo, pag nasisira yung inyong nails, napapalitan siya, pero same na itsura ng nails, and that is what you call the mitosis class. Tapos nakurot kayo, or nasugatan kayo, what happens sa nasugatan? Nagdi-dead siya, diba? Nagdi-dead siya, namamatay siya, pero napapalitan, and that is what you call mitosis. At napapansin yun, bumabalik siya. Pero sometimes there is a keloid na lumalabas. Okay, pero napapalitan siya. Okay, that is what we call the mitosis. Okay, this one, how about when you say respiration? So this is about under the cellular metabolism. So respiration is an effect, okay, when under the Krebs cycle. So Krebs cycle is also called as your cellular respiration when there are more ATPs produced. Okay, the another one, ang kabiliktaran kasi nun is about the fermentation or the acetic acid. Okay, kasi ang acetic acid is under the fermentation, which the lactic acid rather. So when you say lactic acid, another term for this is fermentation. Okay, that is under the anaerobic respiration. But when you say aerobic respiration, okay, class, another term for this is cellular respiration, the Krebs cycle, or the acetic acid. Okay, so the glycolysis starts with the glycolysis process. So when you say glycolysis process, it breaks down glucose into smaller particles. Diba the formula of your glucose is C6H12O6, magpuproduce niyan into 2 pyruvic acids. So magsisplit yan ang inyong glucose into, magbe-break down ang glucose into 2 pyruvic acids. So look at this. Yung glucose na yan, magbe-break down into 2 pyruvic acids. And then, pag ito ay, it needs more ATPs, kasi ang ATP na pinoproduce lang during glycolysis process is napakakonti. Okay? It goes into the mitochondria. What is the purpose for this? To produce more ATPs. And that is the reason why that your mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Why? Kasi dito siya kumukuha ng makakapag-produce ng maraming ATP inside of the mitochondria. During our stress, okay, during exercises, this ATPs is converted into ADP. Nire-release natin ang energy natin. So the meaning of this ATP is adenosine triphosphate, which means there are 3 phosphates. So pag nare-release natin ang energy is converted into ADP, so which means from triphosphate, it becomes diphosphates, which means that there are two phosphates. Then, if we build again, okay, during the cycle of cellular metabolism, so this ADP ay mag-form ng ATPs. Okay, so the purpose for this, why is it necessarily goes into the mitochondria to produce more ATPs? That is the reason why there are sources na if they are under the ETC or the electrotransport chain, diba, under the cellular respiration, it goes into the mitochondria. Okay, it produces ranges from 36 to 38 ATPs. Okay, pagdating kasi sa glycolysis process lang, kung hanggang dyan na siya, hindi siya pumasok, okay, hindi siya dadami. So I think that is, ano ba siya? So I don't want to mention the ano, but I think it is about 2 ATPs. Okay, so that is the end of your lesson under your cellular respiration. Under your cell.